comes from the Gospel of Mark, and there we read, James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to Jesus and said to him, Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you. And Jesus said to them, What is it you want me to do for you? And they said to him, Grant us to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left, in your glory. But Jesus said to them, You don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? They replied, We are able. Then Jesus said to them, The cup that I drink, you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or at my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared. When the 10 heard this, they began to be angry with James and John. So Jesus called them and said to them, You know that among the Gentiles, those whom they recognize as the rulers lord it over them, and their great ones are tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. But whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. Let us pray. O Lord, may your words only be spoken and your words only heard, and we ask this all for your love's precious sake. Amen. Well, today is part 4 in our sermon series, Go Big or Go Home. You're to be commended. Those of you who have been able to be here for all 4, congratulations. I appreciate that. One more week to go. Make it a complete series, and don't miss next week. I'm particularly excited about today's sermon. We are going to be talking a little bit about what true greatness looks like. I'm going to show you a picture of some very important trophies in my life, and I can't wait to share those with you. I've got some stories to tell you, including a Trevor story. I like any chance I get to tell a Trevor story. And we're going to end with just an incredibly crucial question, okay? So it's going to be a good sermon, I think, and I'm glad we get to share it together. Now, to start, we're going to ask a question, and the question is this, or we're going to consider a statement, and the statement is this: nothing is what you think it is. Now, what exactly does that mean? And I first read this statement several weeks ago, and I've been turning it over my head several times since then, and I've come to realize it can mean a number of things. Kind of fun to toy with, might be something you want to talk about more later in the day. What the heck does it mean when we say nothing is what you think it is? But for our purposes now, I want us to think of it in terms of things. Because what one possible meaning of this is that there's no inherent meaning in things. So when it comes to the meaning of a thing, there's nothing there. So the only meaning that a thing has is the meaning we assign to it. So we give everything its meaning. All right? Now, I know that's kind of abstract, and that's maybe a little bit hard to follow. So we can come up with some concrete examples of what this means. Meaning is based on choice. The meaning that a thing has is the meaning we choose to assign to a thing. It's based on our perceptions of a thing. We give everything its meaning. It has no meaning in and of itself. We give everything its meaning. And so one example of that might be this. And we have one might be these. And I don't know who that young guy is. I mean, I really don't know who that young guy is. But you can see he has 2 trophies. And what's the meaning of those trophies? What's the value of those trophies? Well, in and of themselves, they have very little value whatsoever. To most people, they wouldn't have any value at all. But to this young guy, he worked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours for those trophies. In fact, truth is, I spent more time on those trophies than I did on my college education. I probably shouldn't admit that, but that is the honest goodness truth. And in many ways, I worked harder on those trophies probably than I even did on my friendships at that time. I mean, those were the validation of my existence, all right? Those trophies were the validation of my existence. So nothing is what you think it is. In and of themselves, they had no meaning, but to me, I thought they were the most important thing of all, and so they were the most important thing of all, to me, all right? And then, so we can go on, we can take that picture off, because that's enough of that picture. We'll get to that picture later. And so we can take another thing. We can take a dollar bill. Now, I'd probably work better with a $100 bill, but I never have $100 bills. if somebody has a $100 bill they'd like to give me that I can use for this, and I'd be happy to take that $100 bill. But so far, nobody has come forward with the $100 bill for me. Probably be even better with a $1,000 bill, but I don't even know if they make those. Do they make $1,000 bills? If you have one of those, I'd take one of those too if they make them. But a $1 bill. What is the meaning of this? Well, of course, it has absolutely no meaning whatsoever. What's the value of this? In terms of just being a piece of paper, it has very little value at all. And if we were to go into a third world country where there's no cash registers, where there's no, and you said, hey, what's this? They'd say, I don't know. It'd be meaningless to them. It'd be worthless to them. I mean, they might use it to wipe their nose. I mean, it's just, you know, it would have no worth whatsoever. But to us, see, what is this? It's what we think it is. It's nothing in and of itself, so the only thing it's going to be is what we think it is. Nothing is what you think it is in reality. Oh, look at that. Oh, my goodness. Oh, yeah, I like this. So, nothing is what you think it is. What is this? It's nothing. It's what you think it is, something of great value. And so, you know, people give their whole lives to collect these. I mean, they'll spend hundreds and hundreds of hours to collect these. In fact, people will give up on their dreams for these. I mean, people who had dreams, they'll completely give up on their dreams for these. Sometimes people even give up on God's call. And sometimes people clearly feel like God has a call, God has a plan, God has a purpose, God has something on to do. And then they'll think, well, this is so valuable that I'll give up even on God's call just so I can have more of these. Nothing is what you think it is. What is this? Well, in and of itself, it's nothing. It's only what I think it is. It gains its power. It gains its meaning by my perception of it. All right? Starting to make a little bit more sense now. Nothing is what you think it is. We give everything its meaning. Now we're going to talk about another thing. We're going to go to an intangible thing. We're going to go from tangible things to intangible things. So speaking about brains, you need to be capable of formal operation. So this isn't going to make sense to everybody. But just kind of let it log in the back of your brain, and when you get a few years older, this will make sense to you. So just let it percolate around back there, and when you come to that stage in your cognitive development where you can do formal operations, this will make sense. So now we're going to go from tangible things, money, trophies, to intangible things. Intangible things are concepts. Concepts are things, intangible things, but still things. And so we can consider the concept of greatness. What is greatness? Well, greatness in and of itself is nothing. It's just a word, but greatness is what we think it is. And so greatness is, for anybody, greatness is what a person thinks greatness is. How could it be anything else? And so for some people, greatness is the trophies we achieve. The trophies that we achieve. And for myself in my college years, that was really how I defined greatness. When I took home those 2 trophies, I felt pretty great. For many other people, greatness is the number of these that we achieve. I mean, right? That's greatness, the number of these that we achieve, and the number of these that we stack up, and the things that we can do with those. But this brings us to another possible meaning of nothing is what we think it is. We could be dead wrong. Nothing is what we think it is. What things really are might not correspond at all to what they really are. We could be completely wrong. And it's an interesting thing. Those trophies that I showed you pictures of, that I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours working towards, nobody has ever asked me to see those. Nobody's ever asked me to see those. I don't know that I ever displayed them because I probably never had anywhere to display them. I mean, you know, when you're in college, where are you going to put them? And so they probably went in the closet or in my drawer. And then when I got married, Linda sure didn't want them up anywhere, so they probably, you know, went in another closet and then in the crawl space and then somewhere in one of our moves. They just never made the move with us. And I haven't thought about them for years. And I was thinking about this sermon. I thought, I'll find those trophies and I'll bring them out and show everybody as my first illustration. They're gone. They're gone. They're in the garbage somewhere. I mean, they're. So this thing that I thought was so important, worth giving my whole life for, maybe it wasn't what I thought it was. Maybe it wasn't as valuable as I thought it was. And eventually it came to just be garbage. And this is what's happening in this morning's gospel, is the disciples have this idea of greatness, this concept of greatness. They think greatness is being number one, is being the most powerful person, is being people that everybody look up to, everybody's impressed with. And Jesus says, No, nothing is what you think it is. Your concept of greatness is wrong. Greatness is so much more than that. Real greatness is the good you do for other people. Real greatness is helping other people. Real greatness is what you give to others. Real greatness is the good that you do in the world. Jesus says, this is real greatness. It's the old Winston Churchill quote. You make a living by what you get, but you make a life by what you give. Exactly right. And so Jesus says, this is real greatness. But that's Jesus. Jesus is always saying stuff like that, right? I mean, we'd expect Jesus to say, so it's easy to kind of discount Jesus. That's just Jesus. He says stuff like that all the time. And so it becomes easy to sort of just write Jesus off. And actually it comes easy to write me off. That's just Rob. He's a priest. That's what priests say. I mean, that's what they pay him to say. So we don't really need to listen to him. And so it becomes easy to... So you might not believe Jesus. You might not believe me. I mean, it's kind of easy not... So I'm going to read you somebody else who... and this guy by the name of Bernard Roth. Bernard Roth is a person of exceptional achievement in the secular realm. He was one of the founders of Stanford's D School, which is one of the most prestigious schools on the face of this planet. He has won all kinds of awards in all kinds of fields, from robotics and kinetics to medicine to education. He's won them in all kinds of countries across the... I mean, so in terms of achievement, this guy is in an elite field that very few people occupy. All right? So he's not speaking from the perspective of Jesus. I don't think he has a religious bone in his body. I haven't seen any indication of that. He's not speaking from my perspective. So Jesus says he thinks, okay, let's not listen to Jesus. I don't really believe that. I do listen to Jesus, but I can see where people might say that. Rob, he always says this stuff. That's Rob. He's a little bit out there anyhow. I can see where a person say that. I really can't see where a person say that. Let me read from somebody else. This is what he says. At the risk of sounding immodest, I've won a lot of awards. I have drawers and closets filled with them. Oh, they're fun to receive, and sometimes the dinners are even fun. But the next morning when I wake up and look at them, they don't really mean a thing. So it is, he says, with many of the hallmarks of achievement as people use the word. Getting on the honor roll, graduating from college, getting a high-paying job, getting a higher-paying job, being salesman of the month, getting the corner office, getting the company car, getting interviewed by the media, winning awards. This is what most people think of when they think of achievement. To me, remember, this isn't Jesus, this isn't a priest. To me, this all misses the mark. I know mega millionaires who are miserable. They spend their money getting the fat sucked out of their love handles and hire bodyguards because they're paranoid. They're always concerned with outdoing themselves and making the next million and then the next. And for what? Conversely, I know artists who are barely scraping by, yet they're happy and fulfilled. Neither is a sure path to happiness or enlightenment. You can surely be rich and happy, but one doesn't necessarily follow the other. Achievement for achievement's sake is hollow. It's the endless pursuit of the carrot on a stick as you race around a track. What is greatness? Well, greatness is what you think it is, but what we think it is might be wrong. So what does this kind of greatness look like in real life? Well, this is where we get to my Trevor story. And don't tell Trevor I said this because I wouldn't want it to go to his head, but I think Trevor's pretty great. And one of the ways that I've seen that greatness is in relation to the death of a young man named Danny. Many of you know that about a month ago there was a young guy in our community who, 18 years old, was killed. He came to this country to escape gang violence, and so he didn't join the gangs of this country, and because he didn't join a gang, he was executed. His girlfriend, well, let me back up a second. We went to Danny's wake at the Catholic Church right down the road here, and as we were going into the wake, the principal of Parkview was leaving. And Trevor said to the principal, he said, if we can do anything to help, let us know what we can do. And the principal said, well, Danny's girlfriend would like for her pastor to speak to any of the young men at Parkview who are interested, who might be tempted to be involved in gangs or involved in gangs, and form a small little safe group that's an alternative to gang life. And we can't offer that at the school, but if your church could offer that, that would be a great thing. And Trevor said, well, you know what, just let me know and I'm happy to do that. And so Trevor worked out all the details. And so on Monday and Thursday, and by the way, Monday is Trevor's day off, he comes in early, and he buys food for them to welcome them to be hospital. And then they come in, and for an hour they have this meeting with this pastor. Nine young men come in every week, and they provide a safe space for them, a hospitable space that is an alternative to being a part of a gang. And the whole meeting is conducted in Spanish, so Trevor doesn't have a clue to what they're saying. But he is there as a supportive presence. Now, there's a lot of other things that young men could do with their day off, and most young men do. But to my mind, not just saying, oh, that's terrible, that's such a bad thing that happened, and it is, but actually doing something to make this community a better place to be, to my mind, that's great. Right? That's pretty great. I'll tell you, well, this isn't so much a story. I'll tell you someone else who I think is great. And I expect most of you agree with me. And Trevor's our youth minister, by the way. I think Miriam's great. And Miriam, just cover your ears, because I don't want this to go to your head. But I was thinking about this sermon. I've been thinking about this sermon for weeks. And as I was thinking about this and thinking about what I might say about people who are great, how we might illustrate this, it all of a sudden dawned on me. If God came to me and said, Rob, I'm changing the rules. You can no longer be Rob Merola, but you have to be somebody else. Because I'm such a good God, I'll let you choose however you want to be. I wouldn't choose a rock star. I never get this thing when we compliment people, say, you're such a rock star. What good has a rock star ever done in the world? I mean, come on now. And I mean, they do play great music, absolutely, I get that. But when we say you're a rock star, we're just generally talking about excess and fame and celebrity. What's that worth? I mean, you talk about nothing is what you think it is. I wouldn't be a particularly wealthy person, because wealth so often breeds unhappiness and it really messes up kids a lot of times. I mean, more times than not. But I think, who would I be? I'd want to be Miriam. I mean, if God said you have to be somebody else, you can choose who it would be. Honest, goodness, truth, I'd be Miriam. And the reason I'd be Miriam is because she does more good for more people than anybody I know. And she always does it with a smile. And as busy as Miriam is, and she's one of the busiest people I know, if somebody has a need, she still finds a way to help somebody. And she doesn't get grumpy about it. I don't know how she doesn't get grumpy about it, but she doesn't get grumpy. She just, so anybody, because I think the way that Miriam helps people just all the time and does it with a smile, to me, there's nothing greater than that. And then I think of Tracy. And, all the studies show that the most helpful thing we can do is give young people certain skills. And that's the most important time is actually childhood years in terms of shaping a child's life. And that what we do, in our country, we've got it all mixed up. We spend tons and tons of money on people when they get older to try to fix all the problems that people have when they get older, when the real investment needs to be made when kids are young. And actually, religious communities have always understood that. And that's why they invest so heavily in things like Sunday school. But Tracy looked at Sunday school and she said, you know what? I don't just want to not reach the same kids that every other church is not reaching. Think about that for a second. Not reach all the kids that all the other churches are not reaching. Because Sunday schools are sort of gone by the road. And a lot of people, and so she revisioned this whole thing and came up with this whole new creation, Faith Factor, because she says, I want kids to really want to be there. And the skills that are taught in these things are life skills. And so, for instance, do you know the first culture to achieve complete literacy in the history of humanity? It was Judaism. Now, it achieved complete male literacy, and so I'm not commenting on male privilege or sexism, but the reason that they achieved complete literacy was not because they believed in literacy, but because they wanted their men to be able to read the Torah. So literacy was a benefit of faith. And in fact, that's the same thing is true. When a kid comes to Faith Factory, when a kid comes to church, we know that one of the best things that can happen for a kid is somebody reads to them. One of the best things that can happen to a kid is that they're surrounded by books. A lot of people's homes, there aren't books. A lot of people weren't read to, and so they don't know about. But when a kid comes to Faith Factory, they're surrounded by books. People read to them. An adult invests in them. That's one of the single best things that can be done for a child. We know of something called the marshmallow experiment. Many of you have heard of the marshmallow experiment. In the marshmallow experiment, they put a marshmallow in front of a kid. And they say, oh, I got something to do for 15 minutes. If you can wait 15 minutes, I'll give you the whole bag of marshmallows. But if you're really hungry, just go ahead and eat it now. And then the experimenter walks out of the room. And if the kid grabs the marshmallow and stuffs it in his face right away, or if the kid sits patiently for 15 minutes and waits and then gets the whole bag, that becomes a far better predictor of success than virtually any other measure. And guess what? You see, Faith Factory Sunday School, what that teaches is the same thing as the marshmallow experiment teaches. It teaches delayed gratification. It teaches executive control. It teaches the ability to say yes because a person could first say no. Except it doesn't do it with marshmallows. It does it with actual lives. And so, yes, the Faith Factory teaches faith, but it also teaches essential life skills. And the thing is that Tracy believed in this so much that she revisioned this whole thing, and then she just started asking people to staff it. And she didn't just ask anybody. She thought she wanted people who wanted to be there, who loved kids, because she knew the key to kids wanting to be there was adults who loved them and were going to invest in them. And she just started asking. And I think she asked like 40 people. She just asked and asked and asked. People said, no, 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 no. And usually at that point what happens is people come to me and they say, look, I'm having a hard time getting volunteers. You go ask them, because people will say yes to you. But Tracy didn't do that. She so believed in what she was doing. She was so motivated. She just kept acting and asking, and she didn't get discouraged. And it's not fun having people tell you no. And she didn't get discouraged, and she's put together a killer team of adults who are just doing the best job I have yet seen in my 15 years of not just teaching our kids about faith, but giving them skills they need to see. To me, that's great. To me, that's great. Well, one last story, and then the question I promised to leave you with, and we're done. The last story is told about, a true story about a young woman, Rachel Beckwith. This is Rachel Beckwith, 9 years old. At 9 years old, she was sitting in church, and she heard them talking in church about the fact that there were people in the world that don't have clean water. She was horrified. She never knew that was the case. She grew up a child of privilege, and she always had everything she ever wanted. And so for her to learn that there were people in the world who didn't have all the things that she didn't have, that there were kids that actually didn't have water, it wrecked her little world. And so she said, this year for my birthday, I don't want any presents. I just want people to give money to this organization and help kids get water. And she said, my goal is that I can collect $300 for this organization. So she set up this online account, asked people to give, and then every day she'd sign on with expectation to see how much people give, see if she'd meet her goal. And it ends up she's heartbroken and dispirited. Because as she looks at the adults around her, they care so little about people in the third world that it never gets past $220. And she can't understand. She looks at this and she says, oh man, and then this is just so dispiriting to her. And then she and her family are going on a trip, and two trucks collide. One truck is carrying all these big logs. The logs roll off this trip, hit the car. Rachel is critically injured. She goes in the hospital, people over here in the hospital, and they want to do something, and they start giving. And so they give $1,000. The total goes up to $1,000, goes up to $5,000, goes up to $10,000. Eventually breaks Justin Bieber's record for the amount given to help clean water. And they whisper this in her ear to encourage her. But she dies. She dies. When she dies, people continue to give. And when they give, they end up giving $1,283,000 and some change. 1.2 million plus. And that provides clean water for 37,000 people. But here's the question. Here's the question. Why did she have to die for that to happen? Why did she have to die for that to happen? And here's the answer. Nothing is what we think it is, particularly greatness. And far too often, we just plain get greatness all wrong. Amen?